First of all, I think the act of moving to another country, especially one with a different language, is that you learn to think of a different set of priorities, so to speak. The language structure, everything itself kind of indicates that for them, certain things are important, what things maybe we consider very important or not. Culturally, they were, I think, the closest amongst European countries, at least that I had visited, in the sense that they're kind of laid back. They're quite well known for being impetuous, emotional. That reminded me of India. They had some charming traditions. Afternoon nap, I think any Indian relates to very quickly. They have leisurely lunches. They seem to prioritize the social interactions. Meeting a bunch of friends, meals taking a long time, everything consumed a bit slowly. There's an aspect of that to Spain which I found very charming. The nightlife, I realized, was really a reaction to Franco, as I understood it later. That as Franco was going, this became just part of the tradition. Marcha. You go out and you party all night, and life is short, and you had a lot of bon vivants in those days.
Hola y bienvenidos otra vez a mi canal de YouTube Español por Dentro. Durante estos últimos 5 años en los que yo he estado haciendo estas entrevistas, he entrevistado a mucha gente destacada de diferentes campos de vida, pero relacionado con la lengua española y con la literatura y cultura. Hoy estoy aquí con un invitado que, pues, al parecer no tiene nada que ver con el español, pero muy pocas personas sabrían que él ha vivido la mayoría de su vida profesional en España. Así que tiene mucho que ver con español y con España. Estoy aquí con el gran maestro de ajedrez, señor Viswanathan Anand. Mr. Anand, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to see you, sir.
So, Mr. Anand, while he's equally fluent in Spanish, but it was my decision, and I'm thankful to him to have accepted this decision of having this interview in Spanish, in English, because probably for larger reach as well. So, but I'm going to give a very brief intro of Mr. Anand in Spanish so that the Spanish people can understand a little bit more. So, Viswanathan Anand es uno de los grandes maestros de ajedrez más importantes de la historia. Nacido en la India, él revolucionó el ajedrez en el país de la India y lo llevó a la élite mundial. Fue campeón del mundo en 5 ocasiones y destacó por su estilo rápido, creativo y preciso. Mr. Anand es conocido por su excelente preparación teórica, su capacidad para adaptarse a distintas épocas del ajedrez y su actitud humilde. Más allá de sus títulos, ha sido una fuente de inspiración para generaciones de jóvenes ajedrecistas y un embajador global del ajedrez moderno. Well, with such a large body of work behind him, in fact, I have not even spoken about the titles that Mr. Anand has achieved, because today's interview is less about Mr. Anand, the chess player, and more about his life and experience in Spain, and that is what I aim to achieve through this fascinating chat that we're going to have with Mr. Anand. Firstly, Mr. Anand, thank you so much for being on my channel once again.
Pleasure.
Yeah. So, Mr. Anand, my first question to you is, I mentioned this in my intro as well in Spanish, that you spent an important part of your life in Spain, an important part which majorly was due to professional reasons. So, what initially drew you to live there, choose that country, live there, and how did Spain influence you beyond chess?
So I had been to Spain on a couple of occasions. I had played a tournament in Madrid, but a very short tournament, maybe 3 or 4 days. And then I played a longer event in Palma de Mallorca. And because I didn't have a good connecting flight back, I remember spending a couple of days there afterwards. somebody took me to some village and gave me a rare, what I later remembered to be a Turon.
Okay.
So this kind of cake where they hide some sort of object, and yeah, if you find it, you're supposed to pay for it. That's the joke, and so on. But third time was the charm. On my third visit, I came to play a tournament in Linares in southern Spain, and I I guess there were enough people who spoke some English in both Mallorca and Madrid. But Linares, boy, it was tough. I mean, hardly anyone spoke any English. And so I went there for a tournament. In fact, it used to be the most important tournament in the calendar. So it was a big deal to play there. Um, I went to uh, the dining room to have lunch. And I was sitting there when this elderly couple suddenly came by. And the woman, Nieves, she started speaking to me very affectionately, sort of. She said, honey, and I detected a certain American, twist to their thing, which I'll tell you in a second. They said, "How are you, honey?" And uh, we are both here to watch the tournament, and we're going to. The organizer has asked us to stay and um, interact with all the foreign players. So just remember, if you need anything at all, just tell us and we'll sort it out. So like a ready-made translator. And so this couple was called Nieves and Maurice, and they, to cut a long story short, they basically became my second parents. They adopted me, as they used to say, and I started visiting their place. Beautiful town in the mountains outside Madrid. With views of valleys and peaks and everything. Very nice place. And so a small town called Collado Mediano. And couple of years later, I bought my house there when I was looking for a place in Europe. I thought originally I was sort of toying with Amsterdam or something because of the language, but by that time I felt comfortable enough to try and stay in Spain. So I think the biggest part of the explanation would be that I met this couple. How did the country influence me beyond chess? First of all, I think the act of moving to another country, especially one with a different language, is that you learn to think of a different set of priorities, so to speak. The language structure, everything itself kind of indicates that for them, certain things are important, what things maybe we consider very important or not, and so on. Culturally, they were, I think, the closest amongst European countries, at least that I had visited, in the sense that they're kind of laid back. They are quite well known for being impetuous, emotional, and that reminded me of India. Then they had some charming traditions. This afternoon nap, I think any Indian relates to very quickly. And they didn't, or I should say, corporate Spain is different. I think corporate Spain works to the rhythm of the world. But let's say traditional Spain is, well, the joke about them is to be, why get anything done today that you can do tomorrow? And sometimes people say they're mañana, mañana, but I think it's a very relaxed attitude to life. I also feel that from them, I understood that, I mean, certainly Indians have fun, but we don't make time for it as ruthlessly as the Spaniards. I mean, July, August, they're gone to the beach. They have leisurely lunches. They They seem to prioritize the social um, interactions. Meeting a bunch of friends, meals taking a long time, everything consumed a bit slowly. There's an aspect of that to Spain which I found very charming.
Mm. Yeah,
At the same time, of course, I must say, living near Madrid, it's a very sophisticated place with lots of nice things to do. But somehow it combines with this attitude.
Mm. Right. And as you speak about all these experiences, Mr. Anand, I'm also reminded of my few visits that I've been to Spain, and this aspect of they really take out time to enjoy, unlike sort of a majority of the Indians. So yeah, I mean, I can completely relate to that. Um, you were talking about a bit of American twist, which you would say.
Yes. So this couple, they grew up in Spain.
Mhm,
Basically, they're both from the 20s.
mhm,
And so Maurice is about a few years older than my father, and Nieves was, I think, roughly my father's age. Um, they they were on the wrong side of the Spanish Civil War,
mhm,
which means after the war, they got out in a hurry. In fact, Maurice's father was a Republican general, so he clearly couldn't stay there. He managed to escape first to France, and they kept using the word concentration camps. They said we stayed in a concentration camp in France, and I thought they must have been mistaken because I was thinking concentration camps, extermination camps.
mm,
But concentration camps, in the original sense of the word, was simply a place where you concentrate a lot of people. So in fact, that's what they. So they stayed in these camps in France, and then Mexico was kind enough to accept some refugees. So they emigrated to Mexico. They spent about 20 years there. They married on a bus in Mexico because they were both going to a municipal swimming pool, and they met each other there and fell in love and so on. Very nice. Anyway, later on, they immigrated to the US and they picked up a bit of a. So when they speak English, their American experience interjects more. Their Spanish is, of course, very native. So,
mm.
but when they speak English, you get a tinge of, oh, there's a bit of America connected to them.
Okay, very interesting. So, Mr. Anand, talking about language now, you said that in your previous answer that you ultimately locked in to live in Spain, considering that you by that time you'd become comfortable with the language. So how did your journey with the Spanish language itself begin? Did you know a bit of Spanish before you set foot in Spain for the first time? And how much of it was it a necessity, or was it a curiosity on your part, or just a personal interest? So some interesting anecdotes if you can share about the language itself and your experience with it.
Okay, so it's not a absolute necessity. There are many people, foreigners who like Spain, they live in Spain perfectly, and they can't speak a word of it.
Hmm.
They get by, but the thing is, at the same time, your interactions are very limited. And the smaller the town you need to visit, the less you'll be able to find your way around. You'll have to search for that one person who speaks a bit of English, expect them to help you, and things like that. Spaniards are friendly, but it you lose a good deal of the experience of living in Spain if you don't speak the language. But it's not absolutely essential, especially in a town near Madrid. But I was motivated to speak a few words and keep trying. And then Mauricio did something very touching. He bought me a dictionary in the a bookstore and gave it to me. And he wrote to the future world chess champion. And I was very touched by that. Um, Also, I got another book. Actually, I should look for that book. It's an excellent book. I think, written by the people who used to have Travel Planet or something like that. Um, it's an excellent book telling you all the. Um, so it's about maybe 80 pages. There are a very tiny book. There are lots of nice personal anecdotes. And he tells you, and they had a chapter called False Friends. That is words which look identical to English but mean something else. And that was quite an eye opener. When I opened that, I immediately understood, oh, you cannot say this in this. For instance, one famous one is I assist. They say the first thing was you can meet a fluent Spanish speaker, sorry, English speaker in Spain who will tell you, I am here since so many years. I assist in conferences. And you think, well, that's funny. You don't assist, you assist someone, you don't assist at conferences. Till you understand, assistir means to be present at. Um, and I am here since many years is slightly dodgy English. And these kinds of things, very helpful. And then he said, hacer, coger, what's the other one? Llevar, and explain those words with very practical examples. It's almost like they had made every mistake with these verbs and they could put it down in order. And I found that book very brilliant. It also even had chapters on South American Spanish. So it told you a lot of the words which are perfectly valid Spanish are vulgar in South America and vice versa. So these are the ones you have to be careful of and all that. It's the kind of book which was entertaining enough to read that I would even read it in trains and so on, at the same time improving in my language. Llevar is a very important word. I mean, I think once you start to say llevar, you're getting into serious Spanish territory because the way you construct your sentences improves and so on. There are more, but the book was fantastic. Anyway, I had those two. And then I had a Georgian trainer from the Republic of Georgia who came to live in Spain. And at some point I was training with him, but our only mutual language was Spanish. I mean, he would speak English and I had to control myself laughing because his sentences was so complicated and so on. At the same time, I understood my Spanish was quite ridiculous, very, very basic. But this enforced way of thing, very quickly my Spanish became quite decent. I was forced to speak to him and then I would speak to others and realize that I'm almost there. And then, but the back and forth, I would say in about a year and a half, I became very comfortable. In another year and a half, I became close to fluent. Fluent in the sense I can pass off for fluent. I'm of course not. I mean, you always miss things, but fluent where I can pass off for it. And by the time, so I'm talking, I settled in Spain in 94. I started working with him in mid 94. By the end of 95, I was pretty good in Spanish. By the end of 96, as I mentioned, could make myself understood everywhere. And I think by 97, my Spanish had improved to the point where the accents weren't bothering me. I could hear a Galician, I could hear an Andalus, I could hear a Valenciano. And I got it. When they spoke to each other also, I got most of it. And so on. So each one is a stepping point, right? I mean, when you understand all the accents without any effort, then you understand complicated jokes based on accents and things like that, then I think you're close to fluent. My wife joined me in mid 96 after we got married. And initially, she couldn't speak Spanish, of course. But she started to watch TV. And she said, I was just watching TV and I would look at the faces and try to guess what they were saying. They had a couple of American TV series there, so she would watch that. And then she later on said, I found a Casa de la Cultura and the thing, and they were giving Spanish classes. So I went there, spoke to some of the women, and she also started to improve very, very fast. And both of us, I think, got into it like that.
Wow, wonderful. Mr. Anand, my next question is related to a language, but in a slightly different way. How has knowing Spanish helped you connect more deeply with the chess community in Spain and generally the Spanish-speaking world? So I'm talking about certain other South American countries. So how has that sort of unraveled for you?
Knowing Spanish helped me connect with the chess community in Spain, but just as much with the community in Spain. As I said, you can use English as your method of interaction, but in Spanish, they disarm themselves. They open up, they get chatty, they invite you to more places, and
Mm.
they tell you funnier stories, and they don't start speaking slowly in front of you and things like that. So you really feel that you belong. Um, and it gave me access to South America as well. I mean, there the language issue, you have to actually know the vocabulary a bit better, but
Mm.
again, you can guess most things. And then you hear more songs, you understand their songs as opposed to just humming them. You get to read a bit of their culture. Um, you can read the stories on the, written in museums and things like that. And,
Right.
it makes, um, it definitely improved, made me feel like I belong. Uh, the critical moment is when sometimes when you're really angry and you swear in Spanish, I think then it's not like I stopped swearing in Tamil. I mean, Tamil is for some things and it's special, and English is for some things, and that's fine. But then there are things that I found that even though I could easily say it in English, I found that I wanted to say it in Spanish because that table banging impact is there. So,
Could you share some of those expressions?
uh, Que gentuza, that's not very severe, but I'm wondering how far I should go here with this thing. But obviously, a lot of
No.
swear words,
Mm-hmm.
which I will spare your readers, but I mean your viewers.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
que cabron thing, some things just come like that. Also, we have this thing that it improved our range of Aruna and me could talk to each other even when someone else is in the room. And having three languages is better than having two. I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of people will switch between English and Tamil quite effortlessly, that we know.
Mm.
But adding Spanish to the mix stuff. In fact, if I had gotten Catalan, it would been killer. I don't think anyone will guess Catalan. So
Yeah.
that would have been a secret language of our own. But yeah.
Yeah. No, in fact, yeah, even I've many times wanted to learn Catalan. It seems to be a bit similar to French, but yeah, I guess quite different as well. And we have very few speakers of Catalan in India as compared to Spanish.
Spanish.
So yeah.
Absolutely.
So, Mr. Anand, talking about the fact that you came from India, what cultural differences did you notice when you first started living in Spain? Any cultural shocks that you had? Because I feel, Mr. Anand, when you came to Spain in the mid 90s, obviously the world wasn't as globalized as it is now. So, if someone today goes to Spain for the first time, there is a lot that that person can already know about the culture through internet. So you went in an era when there was no internet, globalization was not as much as it is today. So I'm sure there must have been certain cultural differences that really sort of surprised you. So could you share a little bit about that?
Yes. First of all, you're absolutely right. I mean, in those days, not knowing Spanish would have been a handicap. Nowadays, you can easily get by in Spain. I mean, you just have to pull out your phone, say something, watch the translation, show it.
Mm.
Um, in those days, you had to ask people for directions, and we didn't. And if you got directions in English, you might be going in the opposite direction because they may just miss one key word, and you're in the wrong direction, and so on. But cultural differences, well, their diet is quite different. I think they're just very heavy meat eaters.
Mm.
And it's not that I was vegetarian, but still, um, the gap, and it took me some time to evolve to knowing what my favorite dishes were in Spain and what I could order and things like that. I started eating fish after I moved to Spain. I mean, after I started visiting Spain because I realized that would make life easier. Um, it struck me that many Spaniards in those days didn't know what a vegetarian was. They thought a vegetarian was someone who had vegetables, and you say, "Well, there's some vegetables over on the side," and so on. But um, maybe for me, what struck me was they seemed to be very heavy smokers, and uh, and Friday, Saturday nights, there was no point reaching out to anyone. Friday night, they're going to come back at 4 in the morning. If somehow they're not able to do that on Friday night, they're going to do it Saturday night. And these are laws of nature. You don't fight with them. So, I mean, I might accompany one for a while, but then at 11:30 or 12, I make a feeble excuse and I go. And I realize there's no point pretending. I'm not going to last till 4 or 5. So that for me was a big difference. Um, I think wine is a very natural part of their lives. And whereas, again, I've had wine, but I don't quite have it at every meal. Then it's not just part of that thing. That's another um, difference. The rest, I don't know. Stereotypes are always there, but I think we have excitable people as well, emotional. But Spaniards are known to be quite quick to react, quick to have a temper, and so on. But I don't know if that's a culture shock. I certainly experienced it in India. In fact, there are a mix of I think European and Middle Eastern because of their Andalus, the Moorish connection.
Right.
There are some elements there. Again, you can dive down and say the northern Spain, southern Spain, but roughly speaking. And I think it's easy to be there because there are many things we will find comfortable. So then it's only the rest which you have to adjust to.
Right. And sticking to a little bit more about the society of Spain, Mr. Anand. So, what aspects of Spanish society and everyday life surprised you the most, either positively or negatively? I know you've spoken a little bit about certain aspects of them, but anything that sort of really till date it sort of you remember it. Anything about that, maybe positive or negative, whatever you feel comfortable in sharing?
Well, so some of the things I mentioned, especially the nightlife, I realized was really a reaction to Franco, as I understood it later. That as Franco was going, this became just part of the tradition, marcha. You go out and you party all night, and life is short. And you had a lot of bon vivants in those days. People who seem to think the whole point of life is to enjoy it. And maybe there are many things about Spain which is influenced by the fact that for 40 years they were almost sort of Catholic dictatorship, and then they rebelled. So their social norms also, they were ultra liberal, so much more liberal than India. But again, as it turned out, there's los dos Españas. There is the conservative one and there's the liberal España. And these two, in fact, that's why they had the civil war and so on. So these two aspects kind of clash. Positively, I think they were friendly, generally quite approachable, had very detached approach to life and problems. They could shrug and they would complain about it, but not really let it affect them. I think all these things I found quite positive, with some quirks, but I wouldn't say I felt terrible. You knew that they might do it today, they might do it tomorrow, and you've got to adjust. But negatively, I don't know what I didn't like. I mean, I wasn't forced to do anything. I didn't feel compelled to do things that I didn't like. But I think their bureaucracy can be, and that's something from an Indian, right? Their bureaucracy can be very stubborn. I mean, in what is a very rich, ultra-modern society, they have some bureaucracy which can be frustrating. But truth be told, I didn't have too many negative experiences in Spain.
And the
Of
fact that
course,
you,
not every experience is going to be fantastic, but
Mhm.
uh, nothing which made me question anything.
Right, right, right. And Mr. Anand, the fact that you mentioned about this La Marcha, going out and living life as if there were no tomorrow, and you related it to the Franco era, and so I'm a student of Spanish history, and I've been earlier, and I always love reading a lot of books on that. And so there was a movement called La Movida Madrileña, which basically talked about this pent up
That's right.
emotions. Yeah, and a lot of the movies of, for example, someone like Pedro Almodovar really sort of portray those emotions being went out in different ways. So it's interesting to know from you as well, having lived in Spain. So, Mr. Anand, my next question is again, sticking to the uh, the lifestyle of Spain. So, anything in terms of the communication style of the Spanish people, and social relationships, if you compare them to India, any kind of interesting differences, funny differences, or interesting anecdotes that you can share?
They, as I mentioned, they're easygoing. They're not complicated people,
Hmm.
but at the same time, if they don't like something, they really made up their mind long back that they don't like it, and you just won't get past them. Um, their thing is, well, we won't stop you, but it's not for me, and they'll head off. So, um, but their communication is quite open, and they're not reserved people. It's very easy to make friends there. Often with Northern Europeans, they say it'll take a long time before thing. In Spain, people from across the street will walk over and just gossip with you. Uh, they just want to have a chat, and it'll be about the weather and trains and whatever. But they'll do it. So making friends is very easy, and that's where the language comes in. If you don't have the language, then again that ends very quickly. But if you speak Spanish, then making friends is very easy. So quite similar to India, but at the same time, we shouldn't overdo that comparison. I think they are different. They are Europeans. Um, and we are very clearly Eastern Asian, whatever they call it. And they don't actually at that time they didn't know a lot about India. I
Yeah,
don't know if they know a lot now. That's probably not true. But in
I've
those days, they didn't know anything about India. I mean, they would confuse my India with all sorts of other countries, and it was just over there somewhere. Porai, as they have a way of saying porai, which just means I don't know that hand wave. And the hand movements you have to get used to.
yeah,
Caramba, and the hand flipping up and this exasperation, all that, they're geniuses. I like that very much. But they didn't know a lot about Spain, and I mean about India, and they had the usual wild ideas.
Hmm.
Um, are there elephants on the roads? Why do you have cows on the roads? Some stuff like that, if at all they heard. But um, for me, it was fine. I didn't mind being anonymous. I didn't feel any particular need to sell India there, and I just enjoyed it. That's all.
Yeah. No, I mean, Mr. Anand, you
And
talk
also, they
about.
have this habit of getting together for festivals and so on. So, this family culture. And I think we don't have this thing that you must fly back home for Diwali or you must, fly back home for Pongal. If you live in the city, then you might have a meal with your family. But the thing for them, the idea that for the traditional religious holidays, you fly back to wherever your pueblo, that's that little town that you belong to, and you hang out. These things are very nice. So the social relationships are actually very strong. They're not at all um people who live in isolation. So that's also similar to India.
Mhm.
I mean, somebody once told me that if in India you're lonely, you're really a miserable person. But I think it's kind of true in Spain also.
Yeah, and the fact that you mentioned that not a lot of people at that point of time knew much about India, I guess it holds true even today. Maybe things have changed a little bit, but when I went to Spain as recently as back in 2017 and then in 2018 as well, and a few other trips after that, I've seen very few people know about India. I was interviewing a few people on the streets in back in 2024. I mean, as recently as 24, and they did not know a lot about India. They asked those similar questions that are there cows on the road and all that. And in fact, interestingly, there were a lot of Latin Americans, Mr. Anand, like so some Colombians, some Venezuelans. They knew more about India than the Spanish people. So I don't know, maybe that's probably related to the fact that both are
They may
third
have
world
some sort of post-colonial
Yes.
connection, I
Yes.
thought. Whereas
Yes.
the
Yes.
Spaniards are actually a empire,
Empire.
and so maybe their
Yes.
attitude to that is
Yes. Yes.
different.
Absolutely. So not a lot has changed, unfortunately. I guess. Yeah. I mean, we as a country need to do a lot more to be able to be known more. So, uh, Mr. Anand. Trying to get back a little bit to your, your role as a chess player over there. So, living between cultures. Do you feel that Spain has shaped your identity in any way outside your role, as a chess player?
I think in some ways, I mean, I can't isolate it because it's been with me for quite long, but um, you kind of some of their hand gestures and throwing up and I mean in desperation and these sort of things. But at a more subtle level, I'm sure there are um, influences that stayed with me. But now it's kind of hard for me to pick it out
Mm-hmm.
because it becomes just a part of you and you don't uh, notice.
Right. So, my next question to you, Mr. Anand, is that Spain also has a strong chess tradition. So, how do you see the role of
Mhm.
Spain in global chess ecosystem?
It's a very important part of chess history.
Mm,
I mean, India is where the game was invented, and Spain was where the modern game was invented, which is they introduced new rules for the bishop and queen.
mm,
This happened in Valencia, and then that's the version that stayed behind in Europe and became popular there. Um, and they've always had this great affection for chess. Um, but it's not a mass sport. It's not football, but in all their empire, there's that residual uh, appreciation and respect for chess.
mhm,
Even in South America, I think because um, the Spanish were promoting the game, they also felt positively about it, and their current place is not very high, to be honest. They For about 20, 25 years, they were the top country organizing chess tournaments. Um, Now, but they were never that strong. I mean, they didn't have so many strong players. They had a couple,
mhm,
but no one was insanely strong. We're still kind of waiting for that. If there one day there's a phenomenal Spanish prodigy who
mm,
brings a lot of attention to the game, then it'll be, orders of magnitude more popular in terms of the impact.
mm,
But I think it's a serious cultural part of
mhm.
Spain.
Right, right. And this fascinating chat has almost come to an end. My last question to you, Mr. Anand. Well, I'd say a second last question because I have a surprise in store for you after this. So, um, this question is: what advice would you give to young Indians who move to Spain or Europe and want to integrate through language and culture?
I would say go for it. When I moved to Spain because it was advantageous for me. I needed a base in Europe, and I did it for my career reasons. But I think going and living in a foreign country, especially one with a different language, and learning how they approach life and so on, it's a nice attitude. It does change you forever if you speak a couple of foreign languages and um,
Mm-hmm.
you understand them a bit more. Uh, as we said earlier, it's not necessary, but I think it does um, change your attitude on many matters. perhaps even things like problem solving. Spaniards have some nice phrases for these things, and you remember them, these problem solving phrases. They have a funny expression saying, más se perdió en Cuba, which basically means uh, once we have lost Cuba, what else could hurt us? Something like that. So they have their typical phrases, and those even could be ways of. Though India is philosophical enough. No, I don't
Yes.
think we need help on that front, but every little bit kind of enriches that. But definitely do it, and this has nothing to do with whether it's for your career. I think it's one of the best experiences you can have. And there- there's a saying that you'll never understand your country till you live somewhere else. And I think you not only learn Spanish, you actually learn something about India as well when you come back.
Right, right. Fantastic. So, Mr. Anand, this last segment is something which I thought I'll keep it as a surprise for you. Your three favorite Spanish words.
Ah, um, do you mean in the ones I use most often, or in terms of?
Could be, and once you use most often, or maybe some word that you aesthetically find it very beautiful, or you like to use it a lot. Yeah.
Um, I like the Enya sounds,
Mhm.
Anyorar, uh, that means to really miss something, and uh, things like that. Um, I like a lot of the words with double L's.
Okay.
Uh,
So llegar or
Somehow,
you.
Yeva, Yorar, all that stuff. But I remember, as I mentioned in that book,
Mhm.
there were quite a few of these useful words, and he said you have to learn to uh, use aser in the right way, just like you say
Mhm.
fair in French, you say aser
Right.
and thing. But I wish I could think of all the ones I uh, looked up then. Um,
It's okay. I mean, if it's not coming to
but
mind
and
right now.
they have these words like uh, which we don't really have equivalents of. But you'll have to give me a second to think now. I haven't
Mhm.
been thinking in
Yeah.
things like fomentar. Is these words are hard to translate, and this
Mm.
book kind of laid it out as well.
Mm.
Um, Mem- Madrugar is nice. Those words, those kinds of words I like, Madrugar and so on,
Yeah.
because the
They
act of
don't.
waking up in the morning and
They don't have any
uh,
equivalent in English.
yeah, the ones that don't have an equivalent stick out. But right
Yeah.
now, you caught me. I mean, I
Right.
wish I could. I'm
Yeah.
sure 5 minutes later I'll remember all of them, but
Right.
to pick
Right.
them out
Right.
now, I don't
There's
remember.
one probably you must have heard sobremesa.
Sobremesa, yeah, that's
Yeah.
these combination words and so on.
In fact, you actually mentioned it without taking the name of without taking the word sobremesa. It's like when people sit at the dining table and talk for hours and hours, even after the
Yeah,
meal is over, so, which is very much part of the culture that you very beautifully shared. So yeah. I mean, thank you so much, Mr. Anand. It's been an absolute pleasure to hear your experiences about Spain. I don't know how many interviews are there available on the internet about you talking about Spain. So that was my main motive. Of course, this channel is all about bridging cultures between India, Spain, and Latin America. And who else better than Mr. Anand, the distinguished figure in the history of chess, not only in India but in the global at the global stage as well, to talk about it. So thank you so much, Mr. Anand, for your time. An absolute pleasure to hear you.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Y muchas gracias a mi público por ver esta charla. Hasta el siguiente capítulo de Español por Dentro. Chao.